Welcome, everybody. Tonight is the December 12th regular school board meeting of the Marion City Schools. I welcome all of you. Thank you for coming. Please stand and we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please call the roll, Veronica.
Mr. McInnes? Mr. Ratliff? Mr. Weidling?
Here.
Ms. Dyer?
Here.
Mrs. McKay?
Here. All right. We come now to item 3, Superintendent's Report, Inspiring the Community of Achievement, Student Recognition.
Thank you, Madam President. Again, as you just stated, I'd like to remind the community that our mission is to inspire community achievement. And in recognition of that, we have some student recognition we'd like to present tonight. So we're going to stand and be out front, and we're going to call these students up individually and recognize them for their outstanding achievements.
All right.
Jacob's coming up. Jacob was first team All MOAC in boys golf, also named the MOAC Boys Golfer of the Year. First Marion Harding golfer to win this award. He won the conference tournament by 4 strokes, including a hole-in-one on the final hole of the tournament. A 195-yard par 3 at Cyrus Golf Course with a 6-iron. He earned the WBNS 10 TV Athlete of the Week award. And Jacob was also named the September 2022 Fahey Athlete of the Month. Jacob also is a bowler for the Marion Harding and played basketball his freshman and sophomore years. He's also a member of the National Honor Society Varsity Age Leadership Committee and Athletic Director Leadership Council. Jacob ranks in the top 10 of the class with a 3.128 with GPA.
Double.
I don't want to support that. Good job. Kate is first team All MOAC in cross country, finished 5th in the MOAC meet in October at Gavin with a time of 16:58. He ran a personal best time of 16:38 in North Union on October 1st, which put him in the top 20 list of all-time best personal records at Marion Harding High School. Cade was also named the November 2022 Fahey Athlete of the Month. He also competes in track and field for the Presidents and played basketball his freshman year. He is a member of the Athletic Director Leadership Council and a member of Varsity H.
Audrey Fiesel. Justin Long.
Justin was named Division II Honorable Mention All-Ohio last week in football, was also Honorable Mention All-MOAC. He led the Presidents in tackles this season as a sophomore, played basketball as a freshman. He is also a member of the Athletic Department Leadership Council and participated in Student Exchange Day at Highland in November. He carries a 3.481 GPA at Marion Harding High School. Congratulations. Nice job. Thank you, parents and athletes, for coming this evening. And big.
Is that somebody, Mr. Bozzi?
Oh, we have some. Is that Taylor?
No, Taylor and Taryn. Remember, we got the email that they're competing tonight. They swim. Autumn.
Audrey.
There you go.
Audrey. first team All-MOAC in girls tennis, finished as conference runner-up at the second singles position at the MOAC tournament. She has a record of 11-4 in the MOAC play and won 19 total matches on the season. She ranks in the top 10 of her class with a 4.938 weighted GPA. Congratulations, Audrey. Nice job. Again, thank you, athletes, and thank you for just what you do to demonstrate the pride of a community of achievement. And also like to give a round of applause to the parents, because without your support of not only them but the school, these types of things would not occur with this young student athlete. So thank you very much.
All right, Veronica, will you call the roll, please?
There is no roll.
Oh, we did that. I'm sorry.
That's
Okay.
all right. It's still me.
I know.
So at this time, again, inspiring a community of achievement with some of the things that are happening in the classroom. At this time, I'm going to call Tabitha Varner up, who's going to give a presentation on the BenQ boards, which are so fortunate to have now throughout the district. So Tabitha.
Yeah, so I just wanted to, he's gonna bring me the mic. Thank you. I give you an update on our install process with the with our BenQ boards. We are finishing up the last school that will be getting the interactive boards, and that is Grant Middle School. So we just finished George Washington last week, and they are now at Grant. They will be finished before the holidays. It's going very, very smoothly. The company's doing a great job of working with the principals and the staff members in the building and trying to, get in and get out because they're doing it in the evening. So trying to make sure when they get back the next morning that doesn't look like they've been there, except for there's a board on the wall. So I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview of the board, and then Brandy Hobbert, who's one of the educational technology coaches, is going to give you a little bit of a preview of some of the things that the board will do. The nice thing about these boards, we have interactive projectors in most of our elementary schools, or at least did, and they technically will last about 8 to 10 years if you're pushing it. Ours were about 12 to 14 years old. Our technology department did a great job of keeping those maintained to be able to last that long, but they were becoming very, very expensive because we have to replace the bulbs that are in those, the interactive smart boards. The BenQ boards, obviously they don't have the bulbs, so the cost over time is going to be a lot better for us. These boards they're plated with silver, one of those, with silver, so they're supposed to be 99.9% germ-free, so when all of our little ones have their fingers all over the boards, that they're supposed to be able to, not have to wipe them off unless they see fingerprints on them, which will be nice. They also have eye care on them, so if you've heard anything about the whole blue light and all of that, these boards are automatically like that. They don't flicker, those kind of things, so they're supposed to be better for your eyes. And then they also have readings for air quality sensors, and the newest ones that we have ionizers in them, because the last two buildings got the new model that came out. So I'm excited to see how that's going to work for us. Each of the teachers are using these boards a little bit different, and my department's taken the challenge of giving them more and more ideas of things that they can use. With the projectors, they connect to those from their desktop computers, and then they project whatever's on their desktop. So they can continue to do all of that with the new boards, but now they can also use their Chromebooks wirelessly to cast to them, so they can walk around the room with their board. They don't have to be tied to their desktop in their classroom. And then also their students can, if the teacher allows it, they can connect to the boards to show a problem or a presentation that they've done that's on their Chromebook. They can put that up on the board also. At the elementary level, I was in a classroom the other day, and they were using some slides that had grammar up on the board. These were second graders, and they were going up and circling dot, putting where the periods where they were supposed to go, question marks, and then the next slide had the correct answers, and so they could compare back and forth. And it was nice because these boards are supposed to be interactive for the students also. So some of the classrooms, when you go in, especially in the kindergarten and first grade, they might not be as high as you think they should be, but we need to be able to have our students reach the top of the board. So some of the classes, they're shorter for the teacher, but perfect height for the kindergarten and first graders to be able to touch the board. Another great feature of these is the recording feature. So when a teacher is up teaching, they can record their lessons. So let's say they've got a 5-10 minute lesson on a math problem. They can record it and then send it out to students that are absent or put it on their website. It does not record the class. It does not record the teacher's face. It records the voice and whatever the teacher is doing on the board at that time. So if a parent is struggling helping at home with a problem, if the teacher has posted the video of how to solve the problem, then they can pull it up and be able to watch that. So I'm going to turn it over to Brandy and let her show you a few of the features that are on the board that our teachers have been using.
All right, so as Tabitha said, the teachers have the opportunity to connect to the board in a lot of different ways. They're able to cast from across the room. They can connect through their desktop computer or directly to their Chromebook. But there are also features that are built into the board that they don't need any other technology hooked to it. They can just use the board as it is. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our Easy Write system that's on here, which is our whiteboard system that the teachers use quite a bit. I'm sorry. So our Easy Write system, this is one of the areas where they can record. They can have the whiteboard up. Students can be interacting with it. The teachers can be interacting, and everything that they're doing is being recorded on the screen. They also have a variety of pen colors that they can use and brushes. The board can be erased. So they also have some fun features that the teachers have really liked. I got to talk to some teachers before they were being installed at George Washington, and they were a little hesitant because it's a change, which is always hard. But once they got into some of these features, they were giddy and so excited to get them into their room. So they have the ability to bring up shapes, 2D and 3D, on the board, and they have a variety of tools they can use. My apologies. So they can import images, they can import audio and video, they can import YouTube links. They're also able to pull up a variety of tools. So they have a ruler that they can pull up on the board. There's a protractor. So all of these items that we didn't have that would not have been easy to use with our projectors before are built directly into the board for the teachers to be able to use. A compass. There's a calculator, a timer. So I'm going to go ahead and use that because I think I have about 2 minutes left. So teachers are also using this when they're doing centers or things like this at the elementary. They can pull a timer up, put it in the corner, and it will ding when it's time for them to be done. We also have the ability, I'm going to close a few of these things out quickly. They can split the screen into thirds, and they can have multiple students up working on the board at the same time, and they can all be writing in their own color, answering questions or whatever the teacher is having them do. The other thing I wanted to show that the gym teachers enjoy is you can have teams. You can have a scoreboard up here. So as they are playing a game or doing an activity, they can be keeping score. They just swipe up as they need to, and it puts a little crown above for whoever's winning. And then I do want to show you some of the backgrounds that are being used. We do have some different lines and things, but those are not the most important ones. Let me go back to the templates. So there are a variety of graphic organizers that are already built into the board. There are music staffs. There are sports fields. I'm not going to try and describe any of them because I don't know what any of those are. There's also a clock, there's a periodic table, there are number lines and graphs. So a lot of great tools that are new for our teachers. They're getting familiar with the board. So if you are interested in seeing them in action, please reach out to us, and we are more than happy to connect you with somebody who would love to have you come in and see what they're doing with them. Does it have a web browser? That's perfect. It does.
And tell them about Peloton.
Oh, yes. So principals are able to use these boards. There is a feature where they are able to, from their computer in their office, or anywhere, they can put up an announcement for teachers it will ding and let teachers know there's an announcement about to happen. So inside recess, you don't have to go over the announcement system. They're able to get it on the board without any classroom interruptions. If there were to be an emergency, it can go right up on the board. And it's very simple to do. So some of our principals have begun using that as well.
And as long as that's on, whatever we push, it's going to come on automatically.
Yep, and if you have the sounding, even if it's asleep, it will ding.
We've not had that announcements for 3-4 years.
Yeah, because you guys have the YouTube account set up so you can do it straight through there. That'll be great. All right.
Thank you, Brandy and Tabitha. I appreciate it. And again, offer goes up to anybody who wants to visit a classroom and see it in action. I'd recommend maybe a elementary and a secondary, so you can compare and contrast the differences and get an idea of kind of what they're doing in the classroom with them. So go ahead.
I guess first of all, I'm so pleased to hear that the balls are no longer an issue. I had to deal with that personally, so thank you for that. Safe to assume that any of the issues that we were concerned about with the installation at Grant, those have been overcome, and sounds like we're good to go.
There's a bracket that, I wasn't involved with some of this in the past couple years, but there's a bracket that will go over top of the boards that will go into the wall, and then that way we don't have to touch the whiteboards. Now, I think from a teacher standpoint, some of those whiteboards are probably gonna have to be looked at in the future, because they're extremely old and they're falling apart a little bit here and there. But the boards, we're hoping that they're gonna start using the boards as their whiteboard, and they won't need some of those things in the future. We're getting there. They're doing a much better job.
Okay. And you had mentioned some of the training for the teachers. Is time being set aside for them to collaborate? That Kathy Swanger and I taught together, together and next to each other for years, so it was nothing for us to, hey, I found out about this between classes. Are we setting aside time for the teachers to put their heads together and figure out what's best and share ideas?
Yeah, so Brandy and Kathy and I have met with principals, and any staff meetings that they have, we've asked, hey, can we have 5-10 minutes of your time, or if you want to give us more, and then their TBT times. We've told the teachers that if there's a time that they're going to be meeting together as a grade level, if they would like us to come and even show them a couple of things or let them ask us questions. So we've left that open. Brandy and I are assigned certain days that we go to the buildings and work with them on some things. And then, like you said, Kathy Swanger is at the middle school and high school helping out with that. The middle school is just now getting these boards, so we've done some training with them, but they're gonna have so many more questions because the training, they didn't even have the boards installed yet. We have a couple there, so we showed them, but now that they're actually gonna have them in their rooms, they're gonna have a lot more questions for us.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Wilding, to that point too, I wanted to let you know, because you made me think of something we're doing also. So we sent out a Google Doc to the entire staff about what people feel confident in presenting in. So that's all staff. And so what we see moving forward is something like this, that if a staff member feels confident about presenting, why should we bring in an outside? Why not have our own people present to folks of what they're actually doing and how they're doing it? So that's going to be part of our PD moving forward also.
I like that idea too. Okay.
Thank you.
do want to let the students know that you can feel free to leave at any point. You don't have to stay through the whole meeting. I see relief. And we're so glad you did come. Absolutely. All right.
Thank you.
We'll go on to the Assistant Superintendent's report.
Good evening. I'm actually going to ask Jen Sheridan to share information tonight about the Step Up to Quality Pre-K program. I know that you've been hearing a little bit about it, and I do think that this is one of our gems in Marion City. Being new to the community, I do notice that there is a lack of early childhood and places for our families to take their children before they start kindergarten. So I'm really excited about the work that our pre-K team is doing, and Jen is just going to share a little bit of background with everyone so you understand what Step Up to Quality is.
Thank you. Good evening. You can go ahead. Thank you. Okay, so just it's going to be like a high level of Step Up to Quality because you can really get into the weeds with things with preschool because there's licensing and then there's Step Up to Quality and they don't always align. I put on each of your guys' tables, there is a 4 and 5 point summary of Step Up to Quality. I'm not going to review all of this. I think it's 11 pages. So there's a ton of things that you have to go into looking at when you're getting rated 4 or 5 stars. And we always apply to be 5-star because that's what we have been for several years. So you can just, light reading whenever you have time. So overall, Step Up to Quality is Ohio's quality rating improvement system for childcare, preschool, anything early learning in Ohio. In short, it just evaluates the quality of a program. So it can evaluate the program, childcare program in someone's home, a preschool program, or a childcare in a facility or something like that. How it affects us personally is that we have the Early Childhood Education Grant that funds 5 of our classrooms. And then we also have our special education classrooms that's funded through IDEA. So in order to keep that funding, we have to have at least a 3-star rating. So that is something we always have to strive for. Luckily, up to this point, we've always had 5 stars, which just shows it's 5. You can only have up to 5 stars, so it shows the quality of our preschool program. If a program would not maintain at least 3 stars, ODE would provide technical assistance for that program. They may give us corrective action plans, which just is exactly what it sounds like. They say, you did this wrong, and what are you going to do to improve it? And then we send them an answer, and then they come in and review it again. So then if we would not maintain 5 stars, we'd go down to 4, we'd go down to 3, and we want to have that reviewed, then we'd have to go through the whole process again, and we'd have to upload and submit all of our records again, and then they'd have to come back and then observe. So we want to keep the 5 stars. Just some for overview, so you guys know our preschool programs in Marion City, this is where they are all at currently. So almost every building has 2 preschool programs. We have an integrated classroom. The only difference between that and general education classroom is it's taught by a dual licensed teacher. So those teachers that are in our integrated classroom have an early childhood intervention specialist license, but they all also have a preschool general education license. So that makes it integrated, and that's where a lot of our students with disabilities may be, but we also have students with disabilities in our general education classrooms. Garfield is our only special education classroom at the preschool level, which just means that there's more students with disabilities in that classroom versus typical peers. As of right now, we've only gotten word from the state, from McKinley and Taft, who have maintained their 5 stars, which is great. We're waiting on Garfield, George Washington, Hayes. We will not get one for Harrison because Harrison's preschool program just went back to Harrison this year. It's previously been at the YMCA. So we had to reapply for licensure, and then we have to reapply for Step Up to Quality. So we have applied for Step Up to Quality, and we are going for that 5-star rating. So that will, I think, more than likely be reviewed at the beginning of next year to see if we've maintained or got that star. All right, so this is just a very short what the Step Up to Quality review looks like. So every 3 years, there's a full on-site inspection, which is what we just had. And then every other year, annually, there'll be an on-desk review. The on-site inspections are unannounced. We've had the state call us as early as the first day of school. So, little preschoolers come in for the first time ever and say, hey, we're coming to observe your classrooms, and our teachers have to be completely prepared for licensing and or step up to quality. So it can be kind of stressful when you just never know when they're coming. You always have to be ready for it. During the on-site reviews, they will look at, we have a big Step Up to Quality binder. It has all our policies, procedures. It shows our curriculum, how we use our curriculum, what we do to assess students, how we engage parents. They'll review all of that, but then they will also observe a teacher's space. So they will look at, do students have access to everything in the classroom? Is the classroom, student-friendly? They will interview the teachers, and our rating is dependent on that interview, so the teachers are prepped. They'll ask questions like, how do you use your curriculum? How do you make goals for your students? So that is a huge piece of the process. And then the next one is just in brief of what I handed out to you. So some of these are what we need for our requirements. So like number one, staff must meet specific educational requirements, and per the state, that's 50% or higher must have an associate degree. Right now, all of our teachers, which we have 11 preschool teachers, 9 of those that are on site in like a program, all of them have bachelor's degree or higher. So we get extra points because our teachers have more education than just an associate's degree. All preschool staff use in ratio, which means if there are 16 students in a classroom, you must have two licensed staff members. So one can be a preschool teacher and one can be a classroom aide. All of them have to go through very specific professional development and up to 20 extra hours of professional development on top of what we do just as in Marion City Schools. So there's a lot of things they have to do on top of everything just for Step Up to Quality and licensing. That's what the OPR, the Ohio Professional Registry, is about. They all have to be verified in OKRA. So a preschool teacher can't just go and say, I'm going to do this professional development. They can do that for their own growth, but for licensing purposes, they have to be verified through OKRA, and they have to be very specific professional developments. Like I said earlier, we have 11 preschool teachers and 12 preschool classroom aides. So 2 of those teachers are itinerant teachers. So while they don't go through the Step Up to Quality observation, they may be in the classroom serving certain students during those, and they still have to fall into all those requirements just in case Step Up to Quality would come in and they were used in ratio. And why this is important, thank you. This is some data that ODE pulled after putting Step Up to Quality in place. Children in 5-star programs score an average of 1.91 points higher in kindergarten language and literacy than students in 1-star programs. Children in 4-star programs score an average of 3.36 higher on 3rd grade ELA than children in 1-star programs. And it was also noted after surveying parents that they were more likely to enroll their children in programs with a 4 to 5-star rating. And doing some research to present this to you all, I found out that Marion County obviously has a shortage in childcare and preschool programs. We know that, especially since COVID. But I found out through this that according to ODJFS, which is the Ohio Department of Jobs and Family Services, Marion County only has 34 licensed childcare and preschool options. So there may be more childcare options than that, but only 34 are licensed through that state. And so that's infant through school age. So when you think about the number of children we have in Marion County, that's obviously not enough to serve our students. So we are really lucky to have these programs because it shows long-term success when we have our high-quality programs. And just something else I found interesting, because I don't think people realize the number of preschool children we have. So we have 260 students enrolled right now in preschool, and that does not include the students that we serve in community preschool. So we still serve students that might be at Head Start, Manual Lutheran, Day Spring. If they live in our district, and especially if they're a student with a disability, we go out there with our itinerant teachers and serve those students. So we have 260, and that's important because, like I was comparing it to Hayes Elementary, Hayes has 175 students. So when you think about the number of preschool students, it's an elementary school. So it's pretty impressive, I think, what our teachers are able to keep doing and maintaining. So if you have any questions.
If anyone gets a chance to go to any of these schools, checking in with the preschool, just preschool classrooms, is a lot of fun.
Yes, they're awesome.
They are a lot of fun.
Yes, my son is in one right now, so I get a personal experience, so
You
that
get to sit on the
is
floor
fun.
and play.
Mhm. And yeah, just email. Kevin Hayner is our supervisor.
Yes.
He couldn't be here tonight, but he loves to bring people around and show and tell you everything in and out of preschool. So get a hold of him. He would definitely take you on a tour.
Yeah, hats off to everybody involved. I didn't know what Step Up to Quality was when I was doing the research, and then it was a day later when we got the news, or at least that I heard that we had maintained that. So congratulations to everybody involved, and keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
And if you go with Kevin Hayner, be prepared to sit on the floor.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, he will make you one of the classroom.
And then
Thank
just
you.
hope you can get up.
So then, the rating, this is completed by the assessors, right? And
Yeah.
then- And how soon after that, this assessment, are we aware of what rating we had? And then you said we're waiting on the others because everyone has made applications. So when will we
Yep.
find out about that?
It should be any time. Taft was our first one, and I think that was 2 weeks ago, but they were here, it was probably 4 weeks ago they were here. So we're just really on the state's timeline. But licensing came with Step Up to Quality this year. So we had licensing going on, somebody in our rooms observing licensing requirements while Step Up to Quality observer was also in there observing. So I don't know if they're waiting on one another, but I would assume within the next 2 weeks we'll know.
We'll find out. And are we also utilizing like Help Me Grow and those type of?
Yeah, so we get a lot of our referrals for students with disabilities through Help Me Grow. So we partner with them. I mean, they talk probably weekly because we're always getting referrals for students who may need early intervention.
Okay.
And is there data that would show the transition of children who are in our preschool program and how well they do as soon as they enter elementary school?
So we don't have that right now to my knowledge, but we started talking about that when we do kindergarten screening in the spring, or if we do it in the fall, however we do it this year, is to try to note who is coming from our preschool programs. Because, I'm involved in a lot of individual cases with students, and a lot of the students that we see struggle the first quarter of kindergarten have not been to our preschool. I'm not gonna say all of them haven't been, but we can definitely tell when a student hasn't been in preschool at all. And like I said, because there's such a shortage, there are quite a few families we get that have come in and they have no school experience.
We don't have a formal analysis of it so far.
Not to my knowledge. So we do the KRA, the Kindergarten Readiness Assessment, which all of our students do. So we could easily go back to last year and see like who was in our program and did they score higher? Did they score better? But I think it'd be interesting to compare those ones who go through our kindergarten screening, because we are screening, some of their skills, and we can see, are they, screening maybe higher than those who may have gone to a different preschool or just no preschool.
Okay. Just give Greg one more thing to do.
Yeah,
That'll be
that's
fine.
who I'd call.
Okay,
So-
got you. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thanks. All right. We come now to the treasurer's report. Do I have a motion to approve the board minutes from the November 21st meeting?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Weidling,
Yes.
Ms. Dyer,
Yes.
Mr. Ratliff,
Yes.
Mrs. McKay.
Yes, motion approved. Item B, financial approvals. You will see there the financial statements from November 22, funds from November 22, and our checks, donation to the robotics, transfers of $86,281.13 for the summer food and food service programs, $89,981.36, summer foods. And then also $1,250,000 to the general fund for the capital funds. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Weidling,
Yes.
Ms. Dyer,
Yes.
Mr. Ratliff,
Yes.
Mrs. McKay.
Yes, motion carried. We come now to the hearing of the public. The Board of Education recognizes the value to school governance of public comment on educational issues and the importance of allowing members of the public to express themselves on matters of community interest. Public participation is a time set aside for the board to listen to public comments, but it is not intended as a time for dialogue. The board offers public participation to members of the public in accordance with the procedures below. The board applies these procedures to all speakers and does not discriminate based on the identity of the speaker, content of the speech, or viewpoint of the speaker. And the information is below, but I have not received any comments. So we're good. So I didn't even need to read that. Awesome. Let's go to item 7, agenda confirmation. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second?
All right. Discussion? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Weidling,
Yes.
Ms. Dyer,
Yes.
Mr. Ratliff,
Yes.
Mrs. McKay.
Yes. Motion carried. Old business. I don't think we have any old business, but maybe we're going to talk on nothing.
No, I would just like to mention, Madam President, even though we don't have old business scheduled, doesn't mean there's nothing working behind the scenes. So I know there's some interest after the first of the year doing some presentations on the CKLA where things are, kind of just bringing everybody up to speed there, and where the math curriculum update is. And then we'd be very excited about also presenting and introducing some of the things that we're doing at the high school as of late, with some conversations about processes and procedures that are there, not only for attendance purposes, but also just hallway traffic oversight, restroom traffic oversight, we'll just say, and some ripple effect ideas that are happening there. So we'll be glad to do that.
Thank you. All right, we'll go now to new business. Overnight field trip, Columbus, Indiana Show Choir Competition. And I think we have the attachments in a folder about what those are. So, and then superintendent recommends the approval of an overnight field trip for Harding High School Show Choir, destination Columbus East High School. This is in Indianapolis. Departure date 1/28 and return date of 1/29/22. And then, do I need separate motions, or can I do them all together? Just the two show choir things.
I would do them separate, they're
Okay.
listed separate.
Do I have a motion for the first item A?
Motion?
Second.
Discussion?
Obviously, that return date is 2023, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Just so it's in there, correct?
Yep.
Time travel.
All right. Call the roll, please.
Ms. Dyer,
Yes.
Mr. Weidling,
Yes.
Mr. Ratliff,
Yes.
Mrs. McKay.
Yes. Motion carried. Item B, overnight trip to Charleston, West Virginia, show choir competition. The superintendent recommends the approval of an overnight field trip for Harding High School. Destination Charleston, West Virginia. Departure date 2/10/23, and the return date would need to be 2/12/23. Do I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion?
So do our kids go down on charter buses, or do they, school bus?
School buses.
That's an exciting ride, isn't it?
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Weidling,
Yes.
Ms. Dyer,
Yes.
Mr. Ratliff,
Yes.
Ms. McKay.
Yes. Motion carried. All right. Item 10, do we have do we need to go into executive session for our new business on the consent calendar? All right. Do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second?
Discussion? No discussion, sorry. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Weibling,
Yes.
Ms. Dyer,
Yes.
Mr. Ratliff,
Yes.
Ms. McKay.
Yes, motion carried. All right. Then, item 12, board announcements. So we have a lot of things going on in January. The board will be meeting in executive session on January 7th to screen superintendent applications at 9 o'clock. I'm not even sure where. Is that it? I think
It's
it's
here.
in the community center, community room. We have an organizational meeting at 4:30 on Wednesday, the 11th. And then after that, we will go into executive session to interview superintendent candidates. We will have another executive session to interview the rest of the candidates. And January 17th is our regular January meeting. And January 19th is our regular meeting with a forum for the final superintendent interviews. All right. Do I have committee reports? Extracurricular?
Yes. Extracurricular met last week, and I was pleased to hear that funding was achieved for all of our kids to go to Florida. So, but I was also, I asked Mrs. Rollins a question about those who chose not to, and because I wasn't aware that you could choose not to, but all of our kids are going that chose to go to Florida, so that should be very, very, very exciting. It was also reported at the extracurricular meeting, Mrs. Rollins sent out an invite to attend the Christmas program yesterday at Harding. So amazing. I wasn't in this Christmas spirit until I attended that phenomenal show. So at the extracurricular, Mrs. Rollins did invite everyone to attend that. And I want to send a special thank you from the board to the choirs directed by Jamie Rollins, Sam Weibel, the bands Jacob Hartman, Ben Weaver, the orchestra, Stephen Patterson, and Sam again. Simply, our kids are just the bomb. They were just amazing, and they did a great job. Even though there was some type of things on the floor, they were dancing over that and everything, but they were amazing. And I've seen it also on YouTube, so if you didn't get a chance to attend that, that's amazing. The board would also like to recommend, congratulate Sophia Holt. Rocky, do you know anything about Sophia?
I don't.
She's a wrestler. I thought maybe
she just got fifth. First time the girls team has competed, so she got fifth in the tournament. I don't know how the structure was, but she only had one loss and got fifth. So I don't know how that worked. But
so Sophia is a wrestler. She went 3-1 and got fifth place. And according to the press release, this is a milestone that starts it all and our lone pioneer into the cornerstone of women's wrestling. So Sophie Holt, I'd like to give her a board recognition, as well as our high school math competition that's held at MTC. A lot of our students did an amazing job. Third place in grade 11, Audrey Simon. Second place in grade 12, Caitlin Sutherland. And then we had some team awards, again with Jacob Beechler, Caitlin, Audrey Simon, Lasicki, Adrian Shipley. So our team really represented our district well at the OSU MTC Marion Mathematics Challenge. So very proud of these students this evening.
Thank you. Anything on buildings and grounds? Hold on to communication, I don't think there's been.
It's been a while since we've met, but we'll meet on the 15th, but I'll be at work, but I'm sure Ted and Mr. McCrary will pass that along to me. So.
Okay. Curriculum.
Curriculum is meeting tomorrow. But I did forward, Mr. Weibling, some of your concerns to the curriculum, and I'll make sure that I bring those up tomorrow
Appreciate that.
at the meeting.
Thank you. Diversity and equity, we will be meeting probably in January by this point. So, finance, Ted and I met, well, it was prior to the last board meeting, so I guess I don't need to tell you anything more than that, and as well as we met for policy prior to the last November 21st board meeting. All right, Ted is not here. Student achievement, Terry, you've been doing a great job getting out to the schools and you know, recognizing our students, so that's much appreciated. All right, first reading of board policies that will be updated. So this is just a first reading of policy 2220, revised adoption of courses of study, 2413, revised career advising, 2430, district-sponsored clubs and activities, 2431, interscholastic athletes, 3120.08, employment of personnel for co-curricular and extracurricular activities, 5111, eligibility of resident, non-resident students, 5640.01, revised diploma deferral, 6700, Fair Labor Standards Act, FLSA, 7440, facility security, 8320, personnel files, and 8330, student records. And these are just, a lot of them are just kind of minor cleanup language. Did you want to speak to any of them?
Sure.
Olympia?
Yes, Madam President and members of the board. I did create an information sheet to kind of summarize. We will have other policies that we'll be bringing forward this year. We're just trying to work our way through those policies as we come along. And I don't know if you're aware, but we work with a person from Neola who brings recommendations to us. So our team meets with that person, goes through our policies. So I did try to create a little explanation as to the changes. Some of them are very minor, such as updating our pronouns from he, she to they, or the student, or the administrator. And then some of the other ones are just really around language clarity. Do you want me to go through them, or do you want to just, since we have a second read coming next, or you want me to go through them?
Well, everybody has access to them,
Yes.
and we can see, you know, the corrections and the revisions that are made. So I would recommend before the next board meeting, please do that, and then we can look at it again in January.
Sure. And if you have a question in between,
Can we talk about a couple of them now so we can
Sure,
briefly?
sure.
No, for me, like 24, 30, and 31, about the religious apparel, wearing it, our language that we're looking at adopting, I guess would be the best way to put, talks about, obviously we have no problem wearing religious apparel in either the activity or the extracurricular activity in both policies, but it talks about unless such apparel poses a legitimate danger to participants, and then if it's identified as a danger, and then it goes on to talk about giving a reasonable accommodation. I think we obviously have to look at, there's certain sports that would flag you or penalize you if you're not all in the same team. For instance, in wrestling, if you're not all wearing the same singlets and you got something different on your, I guess, singlet, or at football, if you got something different, they're going to flag. So I don't, it's not necessarily a quote-unquote danger, but I don't know how to change the wording, because in some of those areas you can't wear something that's different from the rest of the team. So I don't know how to address that, but I get what we're saying. It's like we have no problem with you wearing it unless it poses a danger to you or other participants, but I don't know how to address that, I guess. So we probably need to think about that one.
Yeah.
Because there's, not all extracurriculars are gonna let you do that, wearing whatever religious thing you want out there, because it takes away from the uniform, I guess, of the sport, so.
Yeah, and again, this language, came straight from Neola, but there is an Ohio Revised Code that just recently passed at the end of May. So it is fairly new that addresses this religious apparel during interscholastic athletics. So I can also put that in the folder as a resource for you.
Well, I understand that. I mean, I understand that, but when our team's getting flagged and then we got parents that are gonna say, well, you said we can wear it, and they're yelling at an official, it's not gonna really matter what the insert says. So I think we better have some differing language than danger to participants is all I'm stating. I guess if the sport doesn't allow you, we got issues where we have to address it. I'd like to address it before it becomes that major issue. That's what I had for those two, I guess.
It does say on the bottom of page 3, if danger is identified, the student will be offered reasonable accommodations available for the participant wearing religious apparel. So it does kind of address that.
Yeah, but the word, I mean, obviously for instance, if I have a t-shirt under my uniform that's religious, but it stands out, that's obviously not really a danger, is all I'm saying. But it's gonna be some sort of penalty to the team or to the athlete. I don't know how to really address it. I just think the code is allowing it. I don't think we as a board have a problem with it. I don't have a problem with it at all. But once it becomes exposed, then there's necessarily a problem. I don't want to have it in our thing that this is okay, and then we're,
Is it possible that OHSAA has guidelines that I
that
don't know?
I don't know.
Yeah, they do.
I was actually just gonna say that, so we can
They do.
compare and contrast
Yeah,
that.
I don't know what
yeah,
the
for the
language needs to
language.
be. It's just the word, really the word danger.
You're
I
right.
mean, I don't,
Yep,
Okay.
so you're correct, and this really came out
If
of
it's
that, to be honest with
non-compliant.
you.
Yeah, I
So
mean, I
it's-
don't-
Yeah, to Mr. Ratliff's point, is that in wrestling it's the same, and it's the same actually in track and field. So
yeah.
in track, you can wear something in the 100-meter dash, but everybody has to have the same thing in the 4x1 or 4x4, et cetera. So the allowances that, to Mr. Ratliff's point, at Ohio High School is making, we can compare and contrast that with this, so we can move forward, but you're correct, it'll be.
Yeah,
the danger
if it
piece.
mirrors it, I mean, then it mirrors it. I mean, and I'm fine with it.
Yep.
I just don't want to get our students or parents yelling, hey, it's in the policy,
Exactly.
and I want to wear it, so what's going on here?
Yep.
So,
I just had a few comments for the first one on the list too, in terms of revised adoption of courses of study. I very much appreciate the first change. It might seem small to some, but as Olympia already pointed out, add clarity on board versus educational service center, adopting courses of study. In terms of a strong believer in the concept of federalism and local control of education to the extent that we can. Again, very much appreciate that. And then also towards the end, it's on the second page of the printout. Since one of the district's goals is to prepare students to enter the world of work, and we continue on later for students to demonstrate their willingness and ability to be punctual, to be present at the learning site each day unless absent for a legitimate reason, and to complete assignments on time and as directed. As someone who's now been on both sides of this in terms of the education world and trying to run a business right now, I very much appreciate that we're explicitly stating that that is a goal of ours and that we recognize that we do need to prepare these kids to be adults, which they will be a lot longer than they will be kids. And if this is going to be a policy, we need to enforce it. We need to draw attention to it, that this is not just, a teacher. I picture myself, I'm not just being a jerk, I'm trying to get you ready to get a job and keep a job. And this is for, something that hopefully you'll continue to demonstrate and pass along to your own kids. So it's no small thing that that's included, but I want to make sure that we live up to it if we're going to add it. I think that's very important.
Any other comments?
And just so you know too, that was part of my conversation with the high school as we move forward with some of these things that we'll talk about.
Next meeting.
And, just to follow up, so I was interviewed along with Jen, high school principal, on the whole idea of switching HQ and where we're at with homeroom and all this. And so one of the things, and you hit it right on the head, is she asked me, was one of the reasons why. And so what I tried to explain to the young lady was that, obviously school the focus is about, you know, reading, writing, arithmetic, and, you know, core classes and your related arts. But it's also, like you said, it's a preparation for life. So employers or the military, you know, wherever you go beyond the walls of the Marion City Schools are going to expect certain things. They're going to expect you to dress well. They're going to expect you to be somewhere on time. They're going to expect you to have projects done on time. And that's where we need to be. We don't need to lower the bar. We need to make sure that we're raising it and making sure our students achieve. So that's going to be a big goal for the rest of this year. And then I would say as we sort of tackle some of these issues, it's, you know, biting one off one at a time, until we can make some progress in these areas.
That's good news. Thank you.
I appreciate that.
And then under 312008, the employment of personnel for co-curricular and extracurricular, when it says right under where we scratched all the language out, it says to be employed by the board, each coach, blah, 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 blah. Does that mean, obviously if you're hiring someone, let's say they don't have it, it's that whole to be employed by the board, but they're working on it aspect, I guess,
Yep.
because to me, up top, it says each coach or activity. That seemed like that language was fine, but that first part, to be employed by the board, it's almost like before we approve this person, he's already got to have, or she's got to already have all that in there, and that pupil activity program takes a while sometimes to complete because it's all the CPR classes and all that stuff. So I just want to make sure with that to be employed by the board is not going to limit who the athletic department or the activities department can, I guess, employ.
No, that's a great question, and we've had this situation come up already, so you're hitting it right on the head. So what we do is, as long as they have everything in order, all the CPR, the first aid, all those things, FBI, BCI background check and all of that, if that's done, we're going to allow them to start working with our students.
Okay.
Sometimes that gets done before that next board meeting, so we go ahead and allow them, then we retro to when that was approved, the issue date of that PAP. So the law allows for that, for them to go ahead and start working with students. Now, if they don't have those things done, then we are adamant that they cannot work with our children.
Or be
our
paid.
students.
Right.
Or be paid, that's very,
Right.
absolutely.
Okay. And then you don't see, or they haven't said that they think that that might be to be employed would cause any, you don't think that would cause any problem of getting the person on board, so to speak, and working with the students?
Right, as long as, you know, we're dotting our i's and crossing our t's in the front end, we should be good.
And then the last one I have is on 7440, which is facility security. Let me find it. Down at the bottom is that whole paragraph under the superintendent is authorized. I don't like the paragraph, and I'll tell you why. I think it should be the superintendent is authorized to install any security devices and or other devices. I mean, because we specifically are talking about metal detectors and surveillance equipment, but I don't know what a superintendent might feel that he needs to protect our students, not just those two things. So I think the superintendent should be able to take any means necessary to protect our students when he deems it to be necessary, not just with metal detectors and video surveillance. So I don't think that gives the superintendent broad enough discretion to protect our health and welfare and safety of students, staff, and visitors on the property. So I think it should say something is authorized to take, you know, and make it broader than just the metal detectors and surveillance. And then at some level, because it also talks about, again, the detection of guns and weapons, and other authorized vape. I mean, those could all be examples, but I think we need to get broader with the ability of the superintendent to be able to protect the health and welfare of our students. And then at the same time, I know it already has in here that the board will have to cover these fees, but I think then the following paragraph, it talks about the superintendent shall report to no later than next board meeting. I don't know that it necessarily has to be just vandalism, theft. I think that should be even more broader on whenever the superintendent, I guess, goes into action to do whatever he needs to do to protect. I think it should be brought up to the board the next time to either drop the measure or keep it going as requested by the superintendent. And then it's properly being also paid for at the next board meeting or so forth to authorize the action, I guess. So that no one's getting any trouble about, he's doing his thing and nobody's ratifying the payments or not, all that kind of stuff. So I think it should be the next, whenever hopefully this paragraph never happens, meaning you have to do special measures, but if it happens, then I think we should talk about the next board and try to either continue the actions made by the superintendent, or he's wanting to further them, or what, have a discussion and then talk about how we're paying for all the actions. Because the way I read this should also include if the superintendent had to, bring in outside companies to do, a whole bunch of stuff. It could be, I guess your mind could wander on a lot of things that needed to be done by a superintendent to protect our students, so.
I guess now that Mr. Ratliff brings that up, the last sentence there as well. The superintendent shall report to the board no later than the next regular board meeting any significant incident involving vandalism, threat, personal safety, how do we define significant, and then also if it's repetitive? It might not be a major expense, but if it continues to happen, that's going to build up, and that it turns into a pattern and then a behavior that's, so maybe if we look at that in terms of when the board should be notified, not just on a singular dollar amount perhaps, but at what rate is this occurring?
Okay.
I think, to your point, I think Mr. Mazzy has done a good job taxing on, for instance, this meeting even being moved. So if there's something he thinks he needs to know about, that doesn't mean the next person or 10 years from now, that is the same kind of response we get from a superintendent or a board gets from a superintendent. So, yeah, I think if any time that he invokes this section, it should just say that he's either, he could call for a special meeting, I guess, because there's stuff in the rules that, hey, let's have a special meeting tomorrow or tonight. It's important. I guess the rules call for that. So I think it should say if he feels it's necessary, he needs to call a special meeting or wait till the next board meeting, because it could have subsided and there's no reason to continue anything. So, but he should have, I think this section calls for any facility security and do whatever needs done. And to me, this kind of limits his authorization to metal detectors and surveillance equipment. I don't know that we want to limit it if it,
who knows
comes
what's
to
available
trying to do something
5 years from now.
Yeah,
significant.
exactly, down the road, yeah.
Yeah, good point. I don't know what that means, but
All right.
that's all I had on those sections, just so they
Thank
can
you.
look at the language after the first reading.
That's awesome, thank you. All right, we do need to go into executive session in accordance with ORC 121.22G1, the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of public employee or official, or the investigation of charges or complaints against, excuse me, public employee, official, licensee, or regulated individual. So do I have a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second?
Okay. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Weidling,
Yes.
Ms. Dyer,
Yes.
Mr. Ratliff,
Yes.
Mrs. McKay.
Yes. All right. We are going into executive session at 7:05. We do not anticipate any board action after that. So thank you, everyone. Happy New Year. We'll see you in 2023. Thanks for coming.